Hey everyone, thanks for joining. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the things about diabetes that nobody talks about. Okay, my name is Jason Teichner. I am a certified holistic health practitioner, certified hypnotherapist, and certified nutritionist. So I've been helping clients heal naturally from all types of health conditions for about the last 17 years. So there's nothing I haven't seen, there's nothing I haven't helped somebody with, okay? So the reason I chose diabetes today is it is huge, 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 huge in the U.S. as well as the world. And there are a couple reasons for that. You have the obvious reasons. You have the foods that we eat, the foods that are no longer the foods that used to be. So the soil's been depleted. The foods are all sprayed with chemicals. We have genetically modified foods. Your body doesn't know what to do with them. So there's also environmental toxins. Environmental toxins is a huge factor. So you have the foods that you eat, and you have the environmental toxins. So those things, what they do is they make toxicity in the cells. Okay, so anybody with diabetes is going to have a lot of cellular toxicity. All right, this is one thing that nobody talks about with diabetes is cellular toxicity. Now, which three organs are mainly involved with diabetes? Of course, you have the liver, you have the pancreas, and you have the kidneys. So a lot of times we need to restore not just the pancreas, which is responsible for producing insulin, but we also need to restore the liver and the kidneys. And a lot of times people also have a clogged gallbladder as well. The foods that they're trying to digest are not digesting. Gallbladder is not making enough bile, okay, which is transferring into the liver and responsible for helping clean out the liver. Some people don't have a gallbladder. That is a bigger issue because we have to do more to replace that bile that the gallbladder was making when you had it. So you have cellular toxicity. So what happens is the environmental toxins and the foods get into the body, the digestive system. The digestive system doesn't know what to do with it, so it stores it, and then toxins get created. These toxins eventually get into all of the organs, all of the cells. Okay, so one way we have to address diabetes is by cleaning out the cells, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The other thing that sure you hear more and more about, but it is a huge, huge, huge factor in diabetes, is cellular inflammation. And what causes cellular inflammation? Well, cellular toxicity, right? So you can't have cellular inflammation without cellular toxicity. So cellular toxicity is the primary focus on diabetes as well as many other diseases. Okay, and then that creates cellular inflammation. And then what does that create? People hear a lot about balancing the pH, right? Being alkaline enough, being not acidic. So the cellular toxicity, besides creating cellular inflammation, will also create acidity in the body. So all of those are factors, not just with diabetes, but with many, 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 many diseases. In fact, almost every single one. Okay? This is the stuff that nobody talks about. So how do you help that? Well, first let's kind of start with going back to what, the steps before a person would get diabetes, right? So the first step is going to be what's called insulin resistance. A lot of you out there, I'm sure, have heard of that. Insulin resistance. Okay, that is when your pancreas is making enough insulin, but the cells are resisting it. So in other words, the insulin is not able to get into the cells to where you have that fuel and where you have that balance of blood sugar. So the insulin will just kind of hang around in the blood and other parts of the body, and it will never do you any good. So just because you're making enough insulin doesn't mean that you are helping your blood sugar, because in this case, the insulin, again, is not getting in the cells. Now, why is it not getting in the cells? Right, cellular toxicity. Okay, the cells can only hold so much. So if they're holding, we all know how small cells are, right? So if they're holding all of these toxins, how is the insulin supposed to get in there, right? It doesn't, or very little of it does. So that's why pancreas is producing enough insulin, but the cells are resisting it. So that's what we call insulin resistance. That is the first step. And then that's when you start having blood sugar issues. And then what happens is your pancreas thinks that it's doing fine, right? Thinks that the cells are taking it in, so it keeps producing more and more insulin. Eventually, the pancreas starts to get worn out and starts to make more insulin and starts to recognize now that the cells are not, in fact, taking in the insulin. So the pancreas says, well, what do? I make more insulin, right? So then that continues to wear out the pancreas. Then you start to get pre-diabetes, which is step 2. So pre-diabetes is when your blood sugar level is a little bit higher than it should be, okay? Typically above 120. Your glucose levels above, some charts, lab charts will put it as insulin, as pre-diabetes when you're over 110. So 110, 120, doesn't really matter. Your blood sugar level is too high, okay? And then your A1C gets a little bit elevated. So this is what we call pre-diabetes, okay? Now, pre-diabetes also means that your blood sugar level fluctuates a lot. So sometimes it also may be normal, right? It depends if you've eaten, how long ago you've eaten, what you've eaten. Okay, obviously we want to stay away from sugar. We want to stay away from all sugar-type foods that are not natural, especially corn syrup. That will clog the pancreas. Okay, so we want to avoid all those types of sugar. Sugar that's okay would be raw sugar, raw honey, raw agave nectar. Okay, those aren't going to raise your sugar level because they're raw. They still have the naturally occurring enzymes to break down the sugar that's in there. Okay, so that's what happens. Now, insulin resistance and then pre-diabetes, pancreas produces more and more, the insulin can't get to the cells. Your blood sugar will raise more and more and more and more as less and less insulin is getting into the cells and as your pancreas is starting to wear down or wear out, okay? So that's when we go to diabetes, okay? So you can kind of see how the pancreas is involved, the liver's trying to process foods, your digestive system's trying to process foods, and then out excreted through the kidneys. The kidneys are having a lot more trouble because they're having to filter out more and more toxins, right? Because your cells are constantly trying to detoxify themselves, right? So that it detoxifies the body. But this process gets interrupted when we go through this. So we got to change our diet, obviously. We've got to reduce exposure to environmental toxins. So I'll kind of talk about that here in a few minutes. But that's what happens, and that's how we get to diabetes. Okay? Most people will say, "Oh, let's just control your blood sugar." Well, that's just controlling the symptoms, right? I'm all about getting to the cause and helping people heal, not controlling the symptoms. So all of these different medications or even natural herbs we hear about, most of those are simply to treat the symptoms of diabetes, not the cause, okay? Not addressing the cellular toxicity, the cellular inflammation, the acidity in the body. So things that we hear like bitter melon and nopal cactus and cinnamon, okay, and berberine, alpha-lipoic acid, things like that, what they do is they help balance the blood sugar, but they're not healing it at the source. Okay, so those things you would have to keep taking for the rest of your life and probably keep upping your dose, which eventually is going to be too hard on your liver also, right? So we need to address the cause, the source, which starts with, as I said, the cellular toxicity, okay? And what I'm about to tell you is on the condition that you also change your diet, right? You also need to avoid all types of sugar. You need to avoid flour. Okay, anything with flour is going to convert into sugar in the body. Okay, so we don't want that. You can do all these things I'm talking about, but if you continue to eat like crap, right, then this is going to continue to be a problem. So cellular toxicity. What are some good things for cellular toxicity? Well, if you're talking about foods, you want to start juicing, okay? You want to start juicing, especially green leafy vegetables. Green leafy vegetables are going to help get out those toxins from the cells, as well as the cells in the pancreas, the liver, the kidneys, okay? The digestive system. So now a lot of people don't want to go out or, get lazy. Keep going buying food every day, right? You have to keep it fresh. You have to keep your produce fresh, right? So there's a really, really good supplement that you can take, which in my opinion is one of the best for cellular toxicity, helping getting out those cellular toxins. Okay, that is called sulforaphane. Okay, sulforaphane is present in cruciferous vegetables, and it is the highest in broccoli sprouts. Sulforaphane is has the highest content in broccoli sprouts. Okay, so if you know how to grow your own broccoli sprouts, organic of course, do that, and then you eat basically a couple bunches a day, and it'll help detoxify the cells. So what it does is it helps increase the enzymes responsible for getting rid of the toxins in the cells. So there are specific enzymes we need in order to get rid of the toxins in the cells. And sulforaphane is one of the things that helps increase those enzymes that will work harder to detoxify the cells faster. Okay, so that's how it works. So for diabetes, extremely, extremely important. Sulforaphane, again, is that component in broccoli sprouts that does this. Okay, what do we do for cellular inflammation? Well, there's a lot of things we can do, but a product I really like is called Emulin, Emulin, and there are two types of Emulin. There's Emulin M and there's Emulin C. Emulin C is specifically for diabetes and blood sugar issues, okay? So you would take Emulin C. Now with the sulforaphane, you're looking at taking about 100 milligrams a day for the first 2 months if you have diabetes, and then dropping down to about 50 milligrams a day for good maintenance. Okay, with the Emulin, you're going to be taking 2 capsules 3 times a day. Again, it's the Emulin C. You're going to be taking 2 capsules 3 times a day for 2 months, and then you're going to drop down to 2 capsules a day. So what that's going to do is that is going to reduce the cellular inflammation. Okay, and you can't take the Emulin. Well, you can, but you wouldn't want to. You don't want to take the Emulin without the sulforaphane, because if you're just reducing the cellular inflammation and your cells are still toxic, it doesn't matter. Again, you're still treating the symptom. The cause is cellular inflammation. Cellular toxicity. So you want to take the sulforaphane, and then you want to introduce the Emulin. Okay, you can introduce it at the same time. You can introduce it a little bit later when you detoxify the cells to some degree. Okay, now also a lot of times we need to directly clean and restore the pancreas, the liver, and or the kidneys with diabetes, okay? So we do that also with specific products. You can do it with food, but again, you'd have to really, really be motivated to do that. I can tell you how to do that. But, with certain supplements, cleaning out the pancreas and helping to restore the pancreas. Dr. Christopher's pancreas formula is really, really good for that. Okay, and then for cleaning out, restoring the kidneys, Michael's Naturopathic Kidney Factors is a very, very good product for that. Liver, you've got Liver Care by Himalayan, okay, which is really good for the liver, or Buclarian Liver Cleanse. Okay, that's a really good product as well by Planetary Herbals. The most powerful one, which you can normally only get from a health practitioner, is called Ecliptics. That's the one I recommend most if you can get it, Ecliptics. It's by a company called Health Concerns. And all of those detoxifying supplements, you've got to build up slowly, okay? Especially the one for the liver. You've got to build up slowly, because what it's doing is it is first releasing, it's pulling the toxins out of the organ, in this case, let's say the liver, and pulling it and pushing it into the bloodstream before the body gets rid of it. So it's when it pulls these toxins out of the organ and into the bloodstream for that few days until it gets out of, a week until it gets out of the body. That's when you get those detox symptoms. So to help avoid that, we want to build up slowly on those products, okay? So that is in a nutshell how we can help to heal blood sugar issues, insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, and of course the level that you do it, the amount of time, the amount of stuff that you take, the dosage will depend on what stage you're in, whether you're in the just the insulin resistance, or whether you've graduated to pre-diabetes, or whether you've graduated to full-on diabetes. So those are the things we need to do. If you want to take those supplements for managing the symptoms of blood sugar while you're waiting for these other things to work, that's great. Again, we're talking about a healing thing. We're not talking about symptom. So, it's going to take a couple months before you start to notice a difference. And probably, if you have full-on diabetes, you're going to notice probably a pretty big difference in about 2 months after doing this, and probably, on average, pretty well healed in about 4 months. If it's extremely severe, we'll say 6 months. Let's say you've gone into neuropathy, things like that. It's going to take a little bit longer. And then we can also, by the way, address the neuropathy as well, and the other side effects that come from the diabetes. That's going to be a different, obviously, protocol. So those are the things that I hope I gave you guys some information that you wouldn't normally get, of course, from a regular endocrinologist or another type of natural health practitioner. I try to provide information that you don't hear anywhere else, and also addressing the source, addressing the cause. So, of course, at the end of this video, there will be a way to reach out to me. You can do that. I can tell you right now, my website is heal.info, so 3 heals, heal.info. You'll get a lot of information there on everything that I do, links to everything else that I have. I have a book out on Amazon called Get Thin for Life, and it describes all of the underlying conditions as to why people can't lose weight. So we talk about neurological, endocrine, digestive, immune problems, all of those things in my book as well. So so that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about here. And definitely reach out to me if you need help with something individual, or if you have additional questions. Be more than happy to answer those questions. Of course, on this specific topic, is impossible to cover everything in this short video, but I hope that gives you a little bit better insight into what's going on in your body. Again, most important thing besides the supplements, you need to change your diet. You need to eat healthy fats, healthy oils. So coconut oil, olive oil, okay, almond oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil. Those are the healthy oils. And we also want to avoid, there's certain oils we want to avoid as well. Okay, so we want to avoid canola oil. All right, canola oil is the most used oil in all foods in every grocery store you can get. Okay, it's very cheap to make, but it will deform your cells. That's what it does. It messes with the DNA of your cells. Okay, and you're going to notice weight gain from that. You're going to notice, again, deformation of the cells over a lot of time of consuming canola oil. And you can imagine what types of health issues that can cause later on. And just to give you an example, canola oil is made from what's called the rapeseed, R-A-P seed, right? And do you see rape seeds being sold in stores, right? You go buy some rape seeds? Of course not, no, because it's not for human consumption. So neither is canola oil, right? Similar with cottonseed oil, okay? Obviously, avoid cottonseed oil. Do you see cottonseeds being sold in stores? No, right? So how can the oil be good for you? So those are the 2 major oils you want to avoid. You also, of course, want to avoid anything that is trans fat. So how that shows up in the label is either partially hydrogenated oil or hydrogenated oil, fully hydrogenated, right? So I don't care what kind of oil it is, if it's partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated, you don't want to buy it, no matter what kind of oil. Same goes for cooking, right? So a lot of oils are very healthy to eat when they're unrefined, right? Like coconut oil, olive oil, and the other ones I mentioned. But when you cook an oil, it makes the oil rancid. So even if it's the healthiest oil in the world, once you fry it, especially fry it, okay, you might be able to get away with baking it every once in a while, but once you fry it especially, it creates rancidity, it becomes rancid. So any oil that's cooked, especially fried, is not healthy, even if it started out as a healthy oil. So you want to eat healthy oils, right, for just your overall diet as well as if you have diabetes or something similar. And you also want to eat, I personally advocate, this is personal preference, and I can explain why, another time when if I talk to you one-on-one or something in another video, but I advocate for not eating any meat from any animals that walk. So those meats are very, very hard to digest. Okay, so turkey, chicken, beef, pork. Okay, pork has another issue too, parasites. But so that's what I advocate personally, is not eating any animals that walk because they're so hard to digest. Because of that, they're going to create, again, cellular toxicity, and they're going to create acidity, too much acidity in the body, okay, because your body takes forever to break those down. I think that wild-caught fish is okay if it's got, obviously, if you know it's low in mercury and PCBs and things like that, heavy metals. I think wild-caught fish is good, and I think that eggs, if they are organic, grass-fed, okay, which means organic means it's not going to have any antibiotics or hormones, and also grass-fed. I think eggs are fine. I think up to 2 a day is fine. It's not cholesterol, dietary cholesterol that raises cholesterol. It's rather saturated fat, animal saturated fat. However, even though egg yolks have that, they also have another component that helps metabolize that fat inside the yolk called choline, C-H-O-L-I-N-E. So that's why they're not bad, okay? And they're actually good for, choline is also good for the brain, and it's good for the liver, okay? So those are the types of things you want to eat for your protein. I would do that, and I would do a very good organic vegan protein. I also think that certain types of whey isolate are okay if they're clean, if the cows are grass-fed, things like that. Biochem, which is also known as Country Life, makes a good one. So that's one of the few whey protein isolates that's clean that I would suggest. Otherwise, I would do an organic vegan protein, to get your protein source make up for what you're not getting from your food. And of course, avoid all simple carbs. Avoid flour. Avoid sugar. Okay, you can do whole grains if they're organic. Okay, and if they have no flour. You don't want to obviously do wheat or rye or barley if you have a gluten intolerance or sensitivity, okay? But all other grains should be okay if they're whole grains. Again, that means no flour in there, and they need to be at the very least non-GMO. Okay, they have to be non-GMO. Some cases they should be organic, and some fruits and vegetables that have thin skin or no skin should always be consumed organic. But if something thick, like let's say a coconut, a banana, an orange, things like that, at least they need to be non-GMO, non-genetically modified. Okay, so fruits, vegetables are okay, and with diabetes, the key to fruit. There's a big debate on whether you should eat fruit or not. The key to fruit is that the fruit needs to be at least a little bit underripe or right at ripe. The problem is when the fruit starts to become overripe. That's when it loses its enzymes. That's when it creates more sugar. You let a fruit sit out long enough, it's gonna ferment, right, and turn to alcohol. Okay, so we want fruit that is just at ripe or just underripe. no overripe fruits. That's the key with fruits, and that should end the debate whether you should eat fruit or not. That's exactly what it depends on, okay? Nothing else. So but you don't want to overdo it, obviously. You don't want to, a few servings a day is fine, and then the rest should be vegetables. So that's basically, how you want to eat with blood sugar issues, or really anything else. So again, I hope this video provided a lot of value to you. And again, if you have any other questions, go ahead and reach out to me, and we will talk later.